Adrian Newey just left Red Bull and built this. Aston Martin's AMR26 showed up late. No upgrades, no shakedown, and with a brand new engine. They barely ran a full session. And yet, the paddock is already terrified. Because under the surface of those slow lap times is a car with design secrets no one has ever seen before. And if even half of it works, Newey may have just flipped the entire 2026 season upside down. Stick around, because what happened in Barcelona wasn't a failure. It was a setup for something massive. The AMR26 was never supposed to be ready for Barcelona. It was late, behind schedule, and rushed through final assembly at the last possible second. While other teams were running shakedowns, tweaking floors, simulating stints, Aston Martin was still building the car. In fact, the AMR26 didn't even leave Silverstone until 2 days before the test. It was loaded into a truck, shipped under tight secrecy, flown to Spain, and built, piece by piece, inside the paddock garage, just hours before the lights went green. That's not a prep session. That's a rescue mission. And yet, Aston Martin showed up. No warm-up, no plan B, no testing protocol. Just a single goal: get the car on track, no matter what. Thursday morning arrived. The media swarmed. The pit lane watched. And the AMR26 rolled out for its very first laps. All eyes were on Lance Stroll. But just 5 laps in, everything stopped. Electrical failure. Shutdown. Session over. No setup data. No tire info. No aero maps. By nightfall, half the test was gone. But that wasn't the story. The story was what the car looked like before it broke. Because even in those first 5 laps, mechanics noticed something different. Engineers started whispering. Other teams began filming. And Adrian Newey didn't say a word. He just stared at the car, like it was doing exactly what he designed it to do. Friday morning. Final day of testing. And Aston Martin was behind everyone. 2 days lost. 1 electrical failure. 0 clean laps. But now? It was time to drive. Fernando Alonso stepped into the AMR26, strapped in, and fired up a machine no one had ever seen before. New engine. New chassis. New aero philosophy. Everything was new. And what happened next? It wasn't about lap time. It was about signs. Because Alonso, despite limited power and no proper setup, logged 49 laps in the morning, and 12 more in the afternoon. 61 laps in total. Most of them clean. Most of them measured. But hidden in that run was something that turned heads up and down the pit lane. Observers on site saw it immediately. The AMR26 moved differently. It flowed through corners with minimal roll. Stable on entry. Planted on exit. Not twitchy. Not stiff. Not lazy. Even with limited engine modes, the car looked balanced. Natural. And Alonso? He wasn't overcorrecting. He wasn't chasing grip. He was guiding the car like he already trusted it. That doesn't happen by accident. After the session, Alonso said very little. But one line stood out. There is a long way to go. But the potential is there. And coming from him? That's not optimism. That's a warning. Because Alonso doesn't play hype games. Not anymore. If the car was terrible, he would have said it. Instead, he logged the mileage, gave the data, and walked away like a man who just saw the blueprint of something dangerous. And here's what makes it even more wild. The car was running in its most conservative engine mode. No deployment push. No quali mapping. Not even full throttle on the straights. Honda didn't want to risk it. Not yet. And still, the AMR26 looked alive. So now the question becomes, if that's what it did at half power, with 0 setup work, and less than 1 full day of testing, what happens when this car is turned loose? In Bahrain? You don't need a stopwatch to recognize an Adrian Newey car. You can see it in the proportions. In the way the bodywork wraps tight around the internals. In how nothing looks accidental. And the AMR26? It screams Newey. Start with the side pods. They're hollowed. Deeply undercut. Almost carved away. Air doesn't just flow around this car. It's pulled through it. The inlet design forces airflow downward, feeding the floor aggressively, while the upper surfaces stay impossibly clean. This isn't about cooling efficiency alone. It's about controlling where every molecule of air goes. Classic Newey. Now look at the engine cover. It's tighter than anything else on the grid. Compressed. Minimal. That tells you one thing immediately. Newey wasn't designing around safety margins. He was designing around confidence. Confidence in Honda's packaging. Confidence in thermal control. Confidence that this engine can survive. with almost no excess space. That's risky. But when it works, it unlocks performance nobody else can touch. Then there's the rear suspension. And this is where things get controversial. Because the geometry isn't just structural. It's aerodynamic. The upper elements are shaped to generate load. Not legally called a wing, but functioning like one. It stabilizes the rear. It cleans up airflow. And it interacts directly with the beam wing region. If the FIA allows it as is, Aston Martin has just gained downforce, without adding drag. That's not clever. That's devastating. People in the paddock noticed. Phones came out. Photos were taken. Zoom lenses locked in. Because everyone knows this pattern. They've seen it before. Red Bull 2010. Red Bull 2013. Red Bull 2022. A Newey car doesn't look outrageous at first glance. It looks inevitable. And by the time everyone understands it, it's too late. Here's the most important part. None of this was optimized yet. No setup refinement. No ride height tuning. No aggressive rake experiments. This was a baseline. A proof of concept. And even at that stage, the AMR26 already behaved like a complete car. That should terrify the rest of the grid. Because once Newey confirms correlation, once the data matches the theory, once the upgrades start arriving, this design won't just get faster. It will get unstoppable. And that brings us to the real problem. Aston Martin didn't just bring a radical car. They brought it with almost no data. Which means the next phase is either where this project explodes, or where it becomes something historic. Let's talk numbers. While Red Bull and Mercedes were pounding out over 500 laps each, Aston Martin managed 65. That's across 2 full days of testing. Not 1 day lost to rain. Not a half day of red flags. 2 days. And just 65 laps. Let that sink in. That's the lowest mileage of any team on the grid. And it's not just bad. It's dangerous. Because when you're developing a car this extreme, when you're pushing boundaries in packaging, suspension, and aerodynamics, you need data. Mountains of it. Track temps. Tire degradation. Suspension loading across stints. Battery behavior under full regen. None of that shows up in the wind tunnel. It only comes when the rubber hits the road. And the engine? That's an entirely different problem. Because Aston Martin isn't running a proven unit. They're not using last year's Mercedes engine. They're running a completely new Honda power unit. Built for 26. Unproven in real-world race conditions. And now? They're the only team using it. No sister team. No backmarker data. No fallback maps. That means every glitch, every cooling issue, every energy imbalance hits Aston Martin first. And when you combine that with Newey's hyper-tight packaging, you're walking a razor's edge. One miscalculated cooling duct. One misplaced sensor. One heat spike under load. And the car breaks. Not gradually. Immediately. This is the double-edged sword of innovation. Because when it works, you're untouchable. But when it fails, there's no one to copy. No reference point. No way out. You either fix it fast, or fall behind. And that's what makes Bahrain so critical. It's hotter. More abrasive. More punishing. If Aston Martin doesn't nail cooling flow, if the hybrid deployment isn't clean, if tire deg hits early in long runs, there won't be time to recover. The season will already be slipping away. So yes, the AMR26 looks like a future champion. Yes, the design screams performance. And yes, Newey has delivered brilliance before. But all of that genius means nothing if the car can't finish races. And right now, they don't know if it can. He's waited 2 decades for this. 20 years since his last title. 13 years since his last serious championship fight. And for most of that time, he's been stuck behind excuses. Bad cars. Bad timing. Bad engines. But not this time. Because now, Fernando Alonso is sitting in the one thing he's never had before. A car built by Adrian Newey. Let that sink in. The driver who's fought in every era? The one who took a dog-slow Ferrari within inches of world titles. The one who walked away from Formula One. Because no team could match his hunger. Has returned. And now, he's holding the key to something no one thought was possible. This isn't just about raw speed. It's about belief. And if you watched Alonso during the Barcelona test, the way he walked into the garage, the way he spoke about the car, the way he defended the project even after the failures, you saw it. The edge is back. The fire is still there. And he knows what this opportunity means. Because here's the thing. Alonso doesn't need the best car. He just needs a car that gives him a chance. And the AMR26 might finally be that car. If Aston Martin survives Bahrain, If the engine holds? If the upgrades arrive on time? This isn't just a team with a new toy. This is a team with a generational driver, a legendary designer, and no more excuses. This is a championship project. And for Alonso, it's all or nothing. Because if the AMR26 delivers, he could finally silence the critics. Finally take on Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, with the machinery to match. But if it fails, there may not be another chance. Not like this. Not with this team. Not with this designer. Not in this new era. When the dust settled in Barcelona, Aston Martin had the slowest lap time on paper. The fewest laps. The least data. But numbers don't tell the story. Because in the footage, in the garage, in the eyes of engineers who've seen 1,000 prototypes, there was something different. This wasn't a launch car. It was a statement. Every curve, every duct, every millimeter of the AMR26 was engineered with one philosophy. Do what no one else dares to try. And that's what makes this car so dangerous. Because its biggest weakness is also its greatest strength. Unproven, unfinished, untamed, yes, but also untouched by compromise. It's not designed to follow trends. It's designed to start them. And if the FIA gives the green light on that suspension, if the Honda power unit finds reliability, if Aston Martin can make up the lost time, then what we saw in Barcelona wasn't a failure. It was a fuse, already lit, just waiting to reach the fire. So is this the future? Is AMR26 the blueprint of what Formula One could become? In the hands of Newey? With the hunger of Alonso? And the ambition of a team no longer afraid to fail? Or is it just another miracle that came too late? One thing is certain. Bahrain will answer that question. Not with headlines. Not with speculation. With silence. With speed. With survival. Because if Aston Martin finishes that race, if Alonso crosses the line clean, and the AMR26 holds its shape under pressure, then everything changes. This is not just another test car. This is the first real challenger of the next Formula One era. It just needs to last long enough to prove it.